Hi everyone, welcome to Tidbit Tuesday. Today I have 5 tips to better think like your customer. And the goal of this is really to help you get in the state of mind needed to write content that really resonates with your target audience and supports their goals. So tip number 1, be a problem solver. This tip is all about taking a step back and looking at those core problems that your target audience is facing. So jotting those down and then also thinking about how your offerings act as a solution to those problems. Tip number 2, recognizing frequently asked questions. And a really easy way to get this information is simply to reach out to your sales or support team. They're probably very familiar with a handful of questions that they're getting more often than not. So having them share that list with you is going to be really helpful in terms of determining any information gaps or areas of content that you should really be prioritizing in terms of communication. Tip number 3, defining industry jargon. It can be really easy to get used to, your form of communication within your organization, within your industry, but writing down any terms that might be too industry or organization specific, having a list of those will really help you while you're writing your content, just as a reference point to make sure that you're not using too many of those and really focusing on the language that's going to make the most sense for your target audience. Tip number 4, defining motivations. So the first example that comes to mind, for me anyway, is just thinking about someone landing on a website, taking time to read through a couple of pages. What's important is to think about what's their motivation for actually taking the time to learn more about you, to learn about your offerings. And I think taking the time to actually outline those motivations will give you a much better idea about what's important to your target audience. And then last but not least, tip number 5, research search terms. That's kind of a tongue twister. There's 2 different aspects to this that I think would be really helpful. So the first is going over into Google Search Console and looking at the report that will actually show you what your website is being found for in terms of search terms and different phrases or questions that people might be typing into search engines like Google. So that's great. It'll really help you figure out, a lot of times, especially people are searching questions, that's super insightful. But then also using a Chrome extension called Keywords Everywhere. Whenever you do a search and you're running this extra tool within Chrome, it'll actually pull up a sidebar that shows you other related searches, how high their search volume is. So comparing that with Google Search Console might give you a nice idea of some extra keyword opportunities that you might currently be missing out on. So those are my 5 tips for thinking more like your customer. And again, really the general goal is just to get you in a space where you have all these different kind of data points and other points of reference, where it's going to make it a lot easier for you during your content writing and content editing to focus in on what's actually important to your target audience. Again, just so you can better support their needs and goals, which is really a win-win for everyone, because they're going to get their problem solved and you're going to have a good relationship with your customers. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Go ahead, comment below, send me a direct message. Otherwise, I will see you next week for our next Tidbit Tuesday.